So let us create today, create an RDS database using Terraform. So basically, we're going to create a MySQL database, and we're going to make it publicly accessible, and then we're going to connect it to the Beaver and see how it works. Okay. Now, first thing that we have to do is create a database folder under Terraform, like we did before, and then inside one for RDS and one for DynamoDB. So right now, we're going to create files with for inside the RDS folder. Okay, so the first folder, the first file we're going to create is the credentials. Okay, so a very simple one. So we're going to create a file called credentials. Okay, credentials. And then I'm going to use a variable. Variables in Terraform can be expressed like this. Just type in the variable word, okay, and give it a name. So it's going to be username, right? And now we say the default is going to be admin, right? So that's going to be the variable for username. I want to have that in a separate file, right? And so we can say this declares the username, right? And now we can say this declares the password, right? A very simple password, okay? So we can say variable and then password, right? And we can say default, and we say pass 2021. Okay, simple, very simple. So those are the credentials of our database. We're gonna use them in the other file, in the one that we create the database, and we're gonna refer to these variables, okay? So right now I'm gonna create another file. I'm gonna call it rds.tf, okay? So we have two files, credentials that contains the username and password, and RDS that contains the database itself, right? So create a MySQL RDS instance. Okay, so this section here creates this, right? Who is following me? Everybody, or you guys?
Only I'm watching.
Guys, if you can do it, it's even better. Okay. So let us type resource. It's not giving me. It's not giving me the suggestions, but that's okay. Okay. So AWS DB instance. Okay. That's the resource that we're creating, and we're gonna call it demo RDS. Right. Demo RDS. But well, let me say demo MySQL, maybe DB. It's better. MySQL DB. Okay. Now, the first component of this database is the identifier. Remember that when we created our database, we had to choose an identifier. It's right here, right? An identifier. So that's what we're doing here. Identifier we can say for the identifier, that is going to be my DB of my NCI or my database, okay? Or my SQL database. Okay, that's going to be my identifier. Okay. Okay. Now, the next one is allocated storage. Okay. This is the storage that we allocate for our database right here. Okay. Once we choose, I select this MySQL, not Aurora. So once selected this and I said free tier, right? I have a section allocated storage right here. Okay. Allocated storage. But before allocated storage, we have storage type. So we're going to put that component before. So we say storage type, right? And we say GP2, which is general purpose. So if you choose here, is GP2 is general purpose, as you can see here, general purpose, okay? And allocated storage is going to be 20, just like we have there, so that we can stay in the free tier, right?
Can you scroll up?
Yeah. Now this is optional, right? It's not mandatory. It's optional. It's an optional component, right? So it has one of standard, right? Which is magnetic, right? It has GP2, right? Which is general purpose. General purpose SSD. And we have IO1, right? Which is provision IOPS. SSD. And that's exactly what we see here, okay? Provision IOPS and magnetic, okay? Now, storage as allocated storage, this is optional as well. Well, actually, this is required, okay? This is required, right? Unless a snapshot identifier or replicate source DB is provided. Okay, so if you provide a snapshot of the old database, right, and the allocated storage is in GB bytes. Okay, like this, GB bytes. Right, perfect. So now we have the engine, right? The engine that we're using is MySQL. That's the one that we selected, right? Remember the database RDS supports 6 different engines. We're selecting MySQL, okay? Engine type. Now the engine version, right? The engine version is 8.0. Okay, if you take a look at the version here, right? We're selecting 8.0. 8.0. This 20, 22, 23, we don't have to put it, just put A0 and it will get the latest for you, right? 8.0, that's the engine, right? Now this is optional, right, as well. Optional in Terraform. It's not optional in the console, but the Terraform is optional, okay? And this is basically the engine to use, okay? Now we have the instance class now, instance class. And the instance class is basically the one that is included in the free tier. So we're choosing db.t2.micro. So that's the one included in the free tier. As you can see here, I selected free tier. Okay, so this is going to be our engine right here. I'm sorry, our instance class. Okay, so we're going to say that my instance class is db.t2.micro. Right? And this is required, guys. This is required, right? Required. And that's the instance class of the RDS instance, okay? Now, we have port, and we're opening port 3306, right? And this is
question, Professor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you say excuse me, when you say it's optional, like the GP to SSD or the engine version, when you say it's optional, it means if you don't put it, it randomly selects, or what do you mean?
It selects the latest one.
Or the latest one. Okay.
Yeah. When it says optional, it means the Terraform, you don't need to put it. Right? Like the port is not necessary, because once it knows it's MySQL, it knows what port to put, right? Okay. Like here, we don't have to select. If you scroll down, right, additional configuration, the port is already selected. So we don't have to select the port. But, you know, for the purpose of being more specific and more understood, or more understood, and I just want to put it clearly so you guys see it in Terraform, but it's optional. So you don't have to put the port. It's already identified when you select the engine, right? Each engine has a port, a different port, right? So this is the port, right, on which the database accepts connections, okay? That's the port 3306, right? Now we have the DB subnet group name, right? And that is basically this guy that we put it here, right? The default one, where's subnet, this one here, right? The default VPC subnet group, okay? So I'm gonna copy this guy. Let's see if I can copy this. Let me see if I can. So default VPC 5745. So I can say default VPC. Did I say 37? 5745. 5745 0E. So if you said 0E, right? 2D, right? Right. And default here is the default. Okay. So that's going to be the subnet group. The subnet group, and this is basically, let me put it up here. This is basically the name of the DB subnet. Group. right?
Are we using the same default VPC? Or is it
Yes.
different?
Yes, default.
Or do we have to pull that number up in our when we go to make the database like you?
You have to try to open RDS and see what is the number that it gives you. But mine is not the same as yours, right? So the DB instance will be created in the VPC associated with the DB subnet group, right? So guys, don't forget that this number here is not the same for you, right? Each account has a different name, right? A different DB subnet group name. Okay. Now, the name of the database, we always have a name that we have to give it. I'm going to say that this is my DB, right? Maybe my demo DB, right? That's the name, right? Remember that this is optional. If you don't put it, well, you won't have a name, okay? You won't have a name, right? This is the name of the database, right? Instance. The name of the database when the instance is created, right? Username, right? Username. So now we can say var, right? Dot username, and that would get the username from here. Var, which refers to variable, var dot username. We say var dot username, it would get admin. And for the password, is var dot password, it would get past 2021. So that's how it works. Okay. So now I can say password, and I can say var dot password, right? So I'm not putting my credentials here. I just let Terraform get it from the credentials file. Okay. Good. So let me, instead of typing this, I will just paste it. So this is required unless a snapshot identifier or replicate source DB is provided. Username for the master DB user is this, right? And the password is the same thing, right? It's required. You have to provide a username and you have to provide a password, right? If you provide a snapshot identifier, like a snapshot that was created from another database, then you don't have to do that. But if this is a new database, you have to provide a username and password. Okay. Now, we have the parameter group name. And this is something, guys, that every time that you create a database, a parameter, a group parameter group is created, but you don't see it. You don't see it. If you, let me see here. Let me just leave this side, go back to the dashboard, and you see here, there's a section that says parameter groups, right here, parameter groups. So every time that you create a database, right, a parameter group is created. So I'm going to use this one because I'm using the one for SQL, MySQL. So the name is going to be default.mysql 8.0. Okay, so that's going to be the name of my parameter. Okay, So check yours in your console and see if you have this parameter, group parameter. Okay,
I have no parameter groups.
you don't have it?
I don't have any parameter groups.
Oh, well. Well, anyways, this section is optional. Okay, it's not mandatory. So as soon as you create a database, one we created for you, right? So this guy is optional, right? And this is the name of DB parameter group to associate. Okay. Don't worry, when you create that, a parameter group will be created for you. Okay. Now we have the availability zone where this database is going to be deployed. Okay. Well, I'm going to choose US East 1A, right? Remember, this is optional, right? If you don't have any preference, Terraform or AWS will choose it for you, right? This is optional. And this is the AC for the RDS instance, right? Are we going to make it publicly accessible? Yes, because we're going to connect to the Beaver, right? And test it out, right? So we say true. Okay. And this is completely optional as well. You know, the by default is false. By default is not publicly accessible, right? And this is basically a Boolean to control if the instance is publicly accessible. Default is false, right? What do we have now? Deletion protection. So we don't want anyone to delete our database. And this is true. So we have this here. Once we create the database, we have a choice, an option to protect the database from deletion. Okay. So it should be somewhere at the end, somewhere here, that we can protect it from deletion. Right here, right? So we can enable deletion protection, protects the database from being deleted accidentally. So while this option is enabled, you can't delete the database. So you have to modify the database, right? You have to deselect this, and then you will be able to delete the database. So we're following best practices here. We are basically protecting our database, okay? So this is optional as well. This is optional. By default, it's not selected, right? Okay. So by default value is false, right? And this is to protect the database. Okay. And we have the last component, and is skip final snapshot. So remember that when you try to delete the database, it suggests you to create a final snapshot of the database. We don't want that. Well, actually, if we were to have this in a real world scenario, we say true, right? But now we're going to say false. And guys, this is optional, and by default is false, right? But I'm going to put it here for you guys to see it. So I say if false is specified, right? A DB snapshot, well, actually it's all the way around. So I didn't see this skip, right? So we're going to say true because we don't want that, right? So if we say true, it skips it. It doesn't get it. But if you say false, then the problem is that we're gonna get a final snapshot, and we have to pay for it, right? So if also specify ADB snapshot is created before the database instance is deleted. We don't want that, right? We want the process to skip that. We don't want anything else. And last but not least, we have the tags, right? And the tag, we're gonna say name. And the name, we're gonna say, well, this is demo MySQL RDS instance, okay? And this is completely optional, right? And this is basically a map of tags to assign to a resource, right? So basically, we're assigning a map, right? Okay. So this is our RDS instance. We just created it, right? So we have the identifier, which identifies the database. We have the storage type, we use GP2. We have the allocated storage 20 GB. We have the engine MySQL, the engine version 8.0, the instance class db.t2.micro, port 3306, DB subnet group, default VPC, whatever, name my demo DB, username, the username, password, the password, parameter group name, this one, I got it from the console, availability zone, 1 East, US East 1A, publicly accessible, I say yes, deletion protection, I say yes, skip final snapshot, I say yes, so I don't want that, right? And then the tags, the name, basically this is name with capital N, we have that, okay? So this is our RDS. So for those guys following me, are you here already? You finished? Are you ready to deploy?
Yes, but I need you to go to the credentials real quick.
Okay. Are we deployed now?
1 second. I messed something up.
So I can paste it on Slack. And after that, I'm going to post the entire file. Okay.
Okay.
I put it there on Slack. All right, so we're ready to deploy it. Okay. So we're gonna create, open a new terminal here, right? Okay, so if you want to be right inside of the folder, when we're going to initialize this and apply all the changes, you can right click on the folder itself and open an integrated terminal. Okay, that will give you, will bring it exactly where you need to be, right? So now we say Terraform in it, we have to initialize it, right? And that will create several files for me, right? As you can see here, right? So let me get ready here and just go to databases. I don't have anything now. As soon as I start applying all the changes, I will refresh and you'll see how it shows, right? So right now, I'm going to say Terraform apply, and that will show me everything that's going to be applied, added, and then I just need to the region where AWS operation would take examples. It's asking me for the region. So, oh, I know what the problem is. So this is happening because I should have here, and this guy here, I should have a main file, right? A main file. So I'm going to create a main file here, right? And I'm going to say that the provider is AWS, right? And I'll say profile trainer, right? And region US East 1.
I gotta put my profile.
Yeah, your profile. I think it's Nathan with capital N or something like that. Okay. So that's why I said the argument region is required, but was not set. So I'm setting it here, right? So I always do that. I don't know. This time I just forgot it, right? So now I can.
Isn't it USC 1A?
No, that's the availability zone. The region is just
Oh,
number
okay.
1. The availability zone is right here. 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. The region is just a number 1. Right? So we can hit init again, right? It was initialized already, but I just do it again. And then apply now. Now it's not going to ask me for the region because I already set the region. So I have a problem here. Oh, I put accessible with only one S, as you can see here. This is wrong. Okay. So I'm going to go back there and just add another S, right? And apply it again, right? You see, it's very smart. It tells me, did you mean this instead of this, right? Okay, so now apply. And now it should be fine. So it's gonna add all these guys, right? All of these guys gonna add in. And then it asked me for my approval. So I said yes. And it will start creating my database for me. Okay,
So
so
my credentials is wrong.
it's wrong.
Yeah, but NA rows.
Okay, now we're gonna, okay, refresh this and it's created my database perfectly. And can you please share your screen?
Yeah, but
Nathan?
you use trainer. You didn't use the account name at the top, right?
This is my profile, the profile that I created. Remember when we first started with Terraform, that we created an AWS profile right here, right here.
Yeah, yeah. But where did you get trainer from?
I created a profile named Trainer. Your profile is Nathan, the name that you gave it. My profile is Trainer. I created a profile Trainer here with AWS. You remember when you created your profile?
Yeah. Okay.
Money's Trainer. So right now my database is in the process of being created. As you can see here, the VPC is the default one. It's no multi-AZ. Of course, it's a free tier. It doesn't have that feature. db.t2 micro is the site, the instance class, the region is, and availability zone is this one. This is the engine, this is the instance, and the identifiers MySQL database, just exactly as I chose when I was creating the database in Terraform. Now, if I click on this, we're going to be able to see more. So it's publicly accessible, as you can see here. I said true. This is the default. This is a net group. The subnets that I have here, right? These are part of the VPC. The one that I select is one US East 1A. It has a certificate authorities right here. It's valid. And this is the default group. I didn't specify the security group. That's optional. It will create one that contains the port 33 open. It's right here, and my IP address. So that's fine, right? So everything is perfect here, the way that it's being created, right? Right. So still creating. It would take some time for that to show. In the meantime, we can troubleshoot anyone that needs any help, right? While this is being created. And then after that, we still don't have an endpoint. So after that, I'm gonna go ahead and connect to the Beaver and see how it works. So basically we did the same as before, but this time we created our database using Terraform. It's a big difference than from the console, right? We have the Beaver, so we can connect to here. We can connect it to MySQL Workbench if you want as well. So, so here we have still would take some time for that to be created.
My
Okay.
default VPC is wrong when I went to hit yes when it was creating stuff.
All right, can you show
I
your screen?
used the one that it looked different than yours though. It didn't say default. You're still live on YouTube, by the way.
I'm sorry?
You said you're still live on YouTube.
Yes, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Go ahead.
See how I use this VPC,
Okay.
and then
We never selected the VPC. Okay,
you
subnet
said
group.
in here.
No, it's not the VPC. It's the default subnet group, not the VPC. So
Okay, but I have nothing.
you have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Just type the word default.
Sorry, just type
Yeah.
default.
Just type the word default.
So right here.
And this is basically, let me see. Okay. Yeah. Type the word default and see what happens. Because that's what you have there, right?
Yeah. Okay. So do I have to do the init again?
No, just apply the changes. Did you get to this point before?
Yes. Yeah, it still says the same thing.
Okay.
I have to
Let me check.
make a subnet group. Should I just create one?
Just create one. Give it a name.
It's using this VPC as well, the one I had before.
Yeah. That's the default VPC.
So
Okay, give it a name. Give it a name.
okay.
Go ahead and create. Sort of request to create the whatever has failed. Subnets IDs are required. Okay, but you don't have a chance to create one. It's graded out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, is that your default VPC?
It's the same one.
Do you
here.
have? Okay. Oh, right. Mhm. Okay. Do you have an RDS running right now?
Nope.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, don't worry, it's optional. So you can remove it. Remove a Terraform. just remove from Terraform. It's an optional parameter, an optional component
Okay, so
into Terraform. You can
Cache.
yeah. You can now go ahead and do that. Just save it first, and then go ahead and
apply.
apply. Yes. Yeah. When it's optional, you don't have to specify it. It will create it for you. Right.
Okay, I think it's creating now.
Yeah. Now you have to wait. It takes some time. Right. Let me
Yeah.
see if let me show mine if it is already
I go ahead.
yeah. So right now, this is the documentation that I check. I check Terraform itself, and it shows me here that the group name you see here is optional. It means that you don't have to specify if you don't want to, right? Which is a good thing, right? So let's see. Right now should be in the available state, right? Status. Right now my database is available, so I can go ahead and get the endpoint, right? At the endpoint, go to the Beaver and establish a new connection, right? With MySQL. And then next, I just type the endpoint here, right? The database is MyDB. Admin is the username, and password is pass 2021. Just like I said in the my DB. I don't think that my demo DB is my database. My demo DB. Okay, I'll test the connection. Perfect, connected, and now I have my database here. Perfect. So now I can simply maybe create a table, test, right? And say test ID, int auto increment, and primary key. Okay. Test name. I can say test name varchar 10 and nano, and test score. That will be numeric, and that will be, we have a precision 4 is 99.99 or 99.99, probably 99.9. What was it 4? And two sites after the decimal point, so I say 2, right? That's it. So I just go ahead and create this table. I don't have any database selected, so I have to select the database right here. It shows here now, right? It shows here now. Before it was not applicable, right? Now I go ahead and execute this, and I have my table created. Perfect. And now I insert info into the test, and I say test name and test score, right? And I can set values, and I can create one, just three tests. So the first one is math, and the score that I got was 99.7, right? And the other one is English, and I got 96.9. And then I have physics, and I got 95.4, right? Perfect. So that will be my data. I insert the data, and now I can go ahead and select everything from the test table, right? So now I have this, and I have so my database is working perfectly. I created it from Terraform, and now it's working fine.
Hey, Professor,
Yes, go ahead.
when you created this in Terraform,
Mhm.
does it select the free tier automatically?
Yes, because you are selecting the DB instance class in the free tier and the storage in the free tier.
Okay.
You are in the free tier automatically because you're selecting the. See here. Let me go back to that form.
Because it's super expensive if you don't choose the free tier.
Yeah, yeah. So you're using the GP2 general purpose. You're using the allocated space here, and you're using this guy. So all of this
Yeah.
is in the free tier. In the free tier. So now that we have done it, we're gonna go ahead and delete it. For delete it, we're gonna have a problem. Remember, we have deletion protection, right? So we're gonna say Terraform destroy, right? Let's see what happens. So all of this will be deleted. As you can see here, you have a minus, a red minus. Before we have a plus, a green plus, now we have a red minus. Okay, so now we say yes. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. You see, error deleting database instance MySQL database. Invalid parameter combination cannot delete protected database instance. Please disable deletion protection and try again. Okay, so we can delete it. We can delete it, guys. So we have to go back to our database, right, and modify it, right? We have to modify it, right? So let's modify our database and let us remove the deletion protection, right? It's down here. So we're gonna go ahead at the end of the page. We're gonna continue, apply immediately because we don't want to apply that on a window, schedule window, modify database. And right now my database is already unprotected, right? So we go back to Terraform and try that again. Let's see what happens. So I just destroy, I say yes, and it goes ahead and deletes the database, right? So that's the good thing about deletion protection is that no one can destroy your database, right? No one can delete your database either accidentally or intentionally because you protected it, right? Now we go back here, refresh, and it is deleting, as you can see here. Okay. So this is how you create a database in Terraform, RDS instance, and MySQL instance in this time. And this is how you destroy it. But first, remember, you have to, if you set deletion protection to true when you created a database before you delete it, and you have to be the person that created a database because no one can just come and set this to false. No. You have to have permission for that. And after that, after you have removed the deletion protection, you can go ahead and